Good late Saturday, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center bringing you a special live update on Tropical Storm Elsa, indicating tropical storm because it did weaken down from a hurricane earlier on in the day, but it still looks pretty robust as you see on the infrared satellite imagery. These cloud tops here kind of tell that story. Still a pretty strong system just under hurricane strength. The latest update with max sustained winds at 65 miles an hour, and we'll give you those particulars in detail here in just a moment. But again, something to watch for sure as we're looking ahead toward early next week, watching that threat toward North Florida, toward South Georgia. We'll break all those potential local impacts down in a moment as we have got a little more confidence now in the forecast. Still not enough here to really be able to be certain about how things could transpire, as there's still a lot of room for error, but a little bit less of that here, as we've noted within some of the latest information coming out here within the models, within the overall setup. But I'm going to be giving you that information here in just a moment. Again, though, we are seeing these thunderstorm tops kind of showing up here pretty significantly as we look at recon. I know they've been in there trying to get the latest on this storm system and trying to find some of those lower pressures in here. Some of this storm here kind of just too dangerous to go through some of this axis because of the way it's kind of evolving here overall. They're trying to, of course, just try to be able to process that information the best they can and disseminate that to the public. But also just some other information I want to touch on while we're looking at this image. State of emergency in effect here from Governor DeSantis for DeSoto, Charlotte, Citrus, Collier, Hardy, Hernando, Hillsborough, Lee, Levy, Manatee, Miami-Dade, Monroe, Pinellas, Pasco, and Sarasota counties here, and probably going to have more of those added even toward North Central and Northeast Florida. Right now, the only county in our viewing area under that is Levy towards Cedar Key there, but I'm going to probably see that expanded here as the threat does kind of evolve later on in toward the time period. So of course continue to watch everything for you. Right now I think we do have a look here at our latest forecast track. So let me go ahead and switch that on over. We'll kind of give you an idea of what's happening here with this. This is after the 11 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center. You can see here maximum sustained winds at 65 miles an hour. That movement west-northwest at 17, and that minimum central pressure there at 1,004 millibars, and that has increased some here based on some of that data that the hurricane hunters have been getting. So that means a weaker storm overall, but really that's a pretty high pressure for a storm with this strong of winds, meaning still that pressure here maybe not necessarily correlating to the winds quite as well as sometimes you'll see, but this also means here that we have a storm that's not as intense overall in terms of its characteristics there, maybe in terms of that size, for instance, here. As we are looking ahead, though, going to be tracking this, maybe some strengthening here, maybe even some strengthening once we get some more information in from the hurricane hunters. But as we're looking here toward tomorrow evening, you can see at 8 p.m. we have 70-mile-an-hour winds as this approaches Cuba, but Cuba is expected to weaken the storm down, winds down to 50 by 8 p.m. on your Monday here. So that's something we'll be watching kind of carefully to see how much Cuba impacts it, because if somehow it finds a way not to get impacted too much by Cuba, we could be talking about a stronger storm, and that would be our chance here, unfortunately, for this to maybe become a hurricane once again as it approaches Florida, if it doesn't become a hurricane earlier on and then we can back down. So that's something to watch out for here, because if somehow it doesn't get impacted by Cuba as much, able to keep that structure some, it might be able to strengthen there toward areas off of southwest Florida before maybe a landfall toward west central, or maybe even further up the coast toward the Big Bend here. As we're looking ahead into where the timeline, I know I have that centered line on here. That's more just to kind of guide us, because really this could be anywhere in the cone as we're looking late Tuesday into early Wednesday. Tropical storm watch in play already from Craig Key to the Dry Tortugas in the Florida Keys, but that's going to be expanded more than likely as we look ahead, gradually going to go on up here, and then ultimately probably by tomorrow night at this time, I'm going to be talking about at least areas toward maybe Levy County under some type of watch, if not already getting that here in toward north central Florida further up here as we're looking ahead in the timeline, because we'll be getting closer to that pivotal 48-hour time frame when a tropical storm watch is required, meaning tropical storm conditions possible there within that 48-hour time frame. That requirement would be in play there, and then we're talking about 36 hours here for a tropical storm warning for tropical conditions there. as we do look ahead. So again, watching things carefully with this, and then as we go over toward the name list, again, the earliest 5th named storm ever, our first hurricane of the season. It's, again, not a hurricane as of this moment, but still watching things very carefully, checking the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. I'll check once again, make sure nothing popped up. Occasionally we'll get updates here, special ones if something happens, but right now it looks like we have a weaker storm. It's moving slower between Haiti and Jamaica. That movement, we were showing you at 17 miles an hour. It could allow for this storm to kind of gather itself a little bit more. We'll just have to wait and see if it can organize itself a little bit more here later on in toward the timeline. And then as we're looking ahead toward rainfall, as we're looking here at the 4th of July in just about 9 minutes or so, that antecedent rainfall could be an issue. I know where I'm at near Stark, about 11.75 inches has fallen here since the start of June. So you add some rain here for the next couple of days. What I'm showing you right now is not from Elsa. This is just the overall pattern here with the front end play. Again, not from Elsa, but going to be causing some issues because we're going to have to add what we get from this on top of what we're going to see in the future. You have Independence Day here. Rain and storms likely. I know we didn't have as much coverage here as we maybe were expecting for your Saturday, but on Sunday we're expecting some more coverage maybe in play to kind of meet things here, I guess halfway if you want to say it like that, because Roy didn't meet that 70% criteria or even maybe 60% criteria for the coverage of the storms on that Saturday. But on Sunday, I think it will, as you see, the temperatures have had to bump them back down a little bit because of that increased moisture according to some of our model data. And then you see here on your Sunday, 60% chance of rain and play. On that Monday, 60% of Tallahassee areas, maybe a little bit higher. And then Tuesday and Wednesday, we're tracking Elsa up to 80%. Both of those days, we have increasing confidence in the threat. Now, maybe off toward the west, there's some indications based on the Hurricane Center discussions that we might end up not seeing as much rain or storminess west of that track. The storm might become a little more lopsided to the east here as we look ahead. So that center line I showed you might be really important, as we might not see too many impacts as we get far away to the west of that, but could have impacts far east of that as we're kind of watching things. And right now, rainfall forecast, I do have 3 to 5 inches as we're looking toward Gainesville, Stark, Jacksonville, Palm Coast, Brunswick, and 2 to 4 inches to the west, but we'll have to continue to refine this, so subject to change. Once we get some more information, I might bump some of these up a little bit more, bump some of these down some here as we are kind of watching things. And now with the antecedent rainfall, the rain we're going to be getting here over the next couple of days, and then rain from Elsa, that could lead to some river and creek flooding issues. Now, still a pretty quick moving storm overall, but not moving as quick as what we were seeing here down toward the Caribbean earlier on. So something to watch out for. Now, this is one possible scenario here from the HWRF model. You can see Tuesday at 11 p.m. It shows the storm moving up the Florida Peninsula, still trying to maybe give a hurricane towards South Florida. Those impacts down there, Southwest Florida, as we're looking maybe toward Fort Myers and Naples, and then going on up the peninsula here, giving us some wind, rain, surge hazards. Isolated tornadoes also a threat. One reason I'm showing this to you, because as we're looking over toward the Atlantic Ocean, for instance, you can see some of the storms there. Now, this is moving away. This would be a little bit better because those storms right just off the coast would be rotating. They would have already been rotating as we're tracking them. So it'd be good if we could get some of the higher tornado threat just to the east of us, but it also could be a little bit more substantial to the south of us as well, maybe toward east central Florida. Just kind of speculating here. We'll just have to wait and see, depending on how the path of this sets up ultimately here in the timeline. But that exact track intensity is still uncertain, but we have a little more clarity since last night, so that's the good news. But just stay tuned for more updates. We don't want things that kind of intensify on us and catch you off guard, as I know it's that holiday weekend, trying to enjoy that, and sometimes things can be a little bit hard to discern maybe during that time frame, in that just try not to watch too much news or weather, but you just have to kind of monitor things here this year because of that threat out there, because things can still ramp up a little bit. I know our tropical impacts, it's looking like between maybe as we get here later on your Tuesday is when we're going to see those conditions deteriorate toward north central Florida. This is actually a little bit earlier than a previous update here. I'm going to double check something real quick on the Hurricane Center site because we have two different versions of this. I want to make sure I put the right version up, because sometimes they Actually, I think, yeah, this is the information here. I want to clarify, this is the earliest possible, not the most likely. I just updated this when I got the information in 11. So I just kind of bumped these up about 12 more hours in terms of the most likely arrival times, 8 p.m. on Tuesday to 8 a.m. on Wednesdays. We're going to be talking more what that super means there. This is the earliest reasonable, though, so you still want to have your preparations done here by early Tuesday as you're looking toward our region. But just to clarify, this is the earliest reasonable, not most likely, arrival times for those tropical force winds here toward North Florida. So going to be watching out for that potential as those conditions do evolve. And then as you see here on that Tuesday to Wednesday time frame, those potential gusts here around the region. I lowered Tallahassee a little based on that track, but I haven't adjusted any other numbers right now because there's just too much uncertainty here as we have 55-mile-per-hour peak gusts as we're looking right now toward the coast, Gainesville, Stark, Palm Coast, Jacksonville, Brunswick. You kind of get the idea. But as we kind of watch here, maybe, just maybe, seeing some of these go up a little and then others go down as we look ahead, just based on the ultimate track, as maybe the western side drier or some of these areas could just be to the west and maybe have lower impacts, maybe in terms of the rain as well. We'll just have to wait and see. But all storms are different. I know, looking back here toward our historical tropical systems, we've had 19 tropical storms or hurricanes, pretty much tropical storms that have tracked within 100 miles of Stark, and I kind of pointed out the most notable here, looking back, Irma just 4 years ago, and then Matthew in 2016, Hermine 2016, Debbie, Beryl, Faye, Jean, Francis, Charlie, Gordon. Those names, a lot of those are pretty memorable around here. Not all of them, but most of them that I kind of pointed on out. You have others as well that are not too memorable. I know last year around Veterans Day we had Ada move across, and really for our area, North Central Florida, wasn't too memorable at all. It was falling apart at that point. Did have a little bit of wind and rain, but something that's pretty easily forgotten about. Just other storms here. You see Colin in 2016 there. We had other systems as well. I know we had Julia, the one that formed over land here in 2016 as well. So some of those are just kind of interesting. But in terms of the list right now, if I had to guess, and all storms are different, and we're not sure of the impacts. If I had to guess, I would say on that most notable list, it would be on there. It would be another name added to that. But I would go middle to lower in terms of ranking these. These aren't ranked on the screen. These are just noted by the years. But just in terms of the impacts here, these are the top 10, I guess you could say, storms to have impacted us since 2000. And it would be on here. We'd bump one of these off probably, but it would still be lower to middle here in the rankings based on what I'm seeing right now. So again, I just continuing to watch things very carefully, getting that latest information in for sure, trying to see what we have right now across some of the different wires. So again, I'm going to go back over some of our other systems right now, though. You do see infrared satellite imagery kind of telling the story here with this system. We'll keep our eyes on that, of course, and then as we go on over to the radar right now, there's actually some showers in the region too. So I want to kind of point out some of those, in fact. So let me go ahead and just kind of say we do have some action going there toward Brunswick. So something they're going to be monitoring toward Glenn County. We also have some more storming is trying to come into view around Gulf County as well. So just trying to give you that rundown here, some of that antecedent rainfall coming in toward the picture here for sure. As you see this storm, it looks pretty robust. We just have to make sure things don't ramp up a little more than we're expecting. Right now, the impacts on the lower side are relatively between what they could be and what we've just kind of seen here within some of the different models earlier on. We're not seeing that as much in the models now with a higher threat, but we'll still watch because things can change. The models aren't the rule necessarily. So I know we have this source right now taken, so let me go ahead and kind of zoom back on in a little bit. You can see here, I took the satellite off, I had it isolated just so we're able to kind of look at some of the smaller features there within a storm. But now I have our tracks up. The white is the official track as we hit midnight here on the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud about to wrap this update up here pretty soon on Tropical Storm Elsa. Those max sustained winds at 65 miles an hour. But you see this track here in the white, the official one. You see some of our models to the east, the GFX to the west here. The models just to the east are some of the more reliable ones here. The TVCN and the HWRF. HWRF there. So again, just going to be watching how these kind of continue to track this storm, how it continues its evolution. Does Elsa here down toward the south? And we'll definitely be watching all of that for you here in the Weather Center, because timing will be important here as we're seeing things kind of deteriorate again. It looks like later Tuesday is when we're talking about those conditions ramping on down, but that graphic will show you is those earliest reasonable times for those winds. So you want to have that preparation done by the time you go to bed Monday night, probably. That'd be the safest bet. I mean, maybe you might be able to do something early Tuesday here as we're looking, especially South Georgia, but just be on the safe side. We have that rain ahead of Elsa even, so you might not want to kind of bet on there being a window here or there. There definitely could be, but we just want you to go ahead and be prepared here for this storm. Again, just secure some things out there. Have the hurricane kit up to date. I think it's getting to that point where we're going to have a watch and play within the next 24 hours or so. We're going to start to take a little bit more advanced preparations. Nothing extreme at this point. Again, it could change, but right now, looking like a medium-strength tropical storm impacting north central Florida. We'll keep you updated. We'll keep you advised here as we watch things. And now I don't want to be talking about a tropical storm on Independence Day as we're looking at the 4th of July, but that's what we're having to do, unfortunately, here. We're tracking this system very carefully, of course. Going to go ahead and switch you back over to that cone perspective, I think, as we start to wrap this on up. We'll go ahead and switch you over there right now so you get an idea of what is going on with this. You see a weaker storm after Cuba, but then a stronger storm as it heads toward Florida. Going to be watching this carefully again. That movement here will be key. You see it kind of evolve here, speeding back up actually as it gets past Savannah per se. You can kind of see that speed and increase here as we're looking ahead later on in toward the timeline. So again, gonna be watching things carefully. Maybe some tornadoes, those winds here, damaging winds possible in some spots as we showed you there. Peak gust about 55 or so. Again, may have to go up a little in some spots, down some on others. That rainfall, an issue with the antecedent rainfall that we referenced as well. So again, watching all that, we'll have to see how surge kind of comes together. I know West Central Florida is kind of vulnerable to that, so we'll just have to see how the storm ends up evolving. I know Ada did cause some issues with that last year as we were looking toward West Central Florida. So that was something worth noting. This storm may be at a similar strength, so that's something to watch out for as we're looking toward Tampa Bay, for instance, here as we keep you up to date. Thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud. Have a great night.